One of the things that I really think through is this trade-off between convenience and privacy or security. And I think you're highlighting it here of like, we all want the cell phone. So we walk around with it because we can call people, we can get on the internet, on Instagram, all the stuff, but it also provides now a tracking device, a listening device, et cetera. I don't think we've really seen kind of, at least across the American population, in certain examples we've seen it, but not yet where those have been used to steal freedom of movement or kind of bigger freedoms. We're seeing that now, though, where you see Google creating these tracking tools where they say, hey, we're going to use the cell phone data and we're going to be able to tell you, are you social distancing or not? And we're going to give that data to the government. And yeah, we may anonymize it. We may, kind of aggregate it, supposedly. But when you start to enter into that world where now that data isn't just let's stop terrorist attacks. It's now let's prevent you and me from going and meeting up with each other. Really slippery slope, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, not even a slippery slope. That's too far, right? We're having private organizations that are enabling portions of our everyday lives, and for me, my phone is how I make my living. Like whether it's through photographs or through communication, or through social media, and they have weaponized the phone where like the distance of that I am from other people, how many people are with me, what we're talking about, like what is next. So first they're saying how many people are congregating at what distance, and then are they saying, okay, well, not only are we gonna be intrusive about that, let's also here's some things that they're not allowed to do when they're together. So they're not allowed to worship. They're not allowed to negatively, disparagingly talk about President Trump or President Biden or whoever it's going to be. Like, who knows? Like once that we keep saying slippery slope. So that metaphor is like after a couple of once momentum negatively starts happening, and there's no way that you can stop the negative energy that continues down this slippery hill. So if this is a hill and you're on top of it, and then you make a bad decision, you give up a little bit of your freedom, you're on this side of the hill. And then you make another one, now you've moved 2 times down, but this slope is super slippery, and now I'm sliding down and there's nothing I can do about it as I slowly go all the way down this hairy, trollish arm and fall off to my death. And like that seems like this alarmist thing where like, no, slippery slope. That's what alarmists, that's what like preppers use as excuses to have a bunch of chickens and have a farm and have their own well and have their own solar and have a bunch of medical. Oh, I'm talking about myself right now, and I'm super happy.
Well, the reason why I wanted to have you come on and talk about this, right, is there's this weird balance between you're not the guy who's yelling and screaming, fuck the government. Actually, you are enlisted in the United States military. You are a trained Green Beret, Ranger qualified. You've spent, almost 2 decades of your life dedicated to protecting the American way of life, American freedom, et cetera. And I think actually what people confuse is like those people who are in the military, police, fire, right? All of those that are sworn to protect the American way of life, they actually feel the strongest about this, right? That they're the ones who are saying, wait a minute, time out. This is not what is supposed to be happening at home.
Yeah. People look at my resume and they're like, oh, that's the guy that's going to come kicking my doors to take a gun. Like, bro, you're insane, right? Like I have watched my friends burn alive inside of vehicles that got blown up by IEDs fighting to protect these freedoms. And you think I'm going to go and enforce the taking of those away from you? You're insane, right? Like you're talking about the most passionate, freedom-loving group of people on the planet. It is your law enforcement, it's your firefighters, and it's your military, right? Because they have seen firsthand the suffering and the sacrifice that goes into the protection and the preservation of those things. And for the military especially, we go to places where these freedoms don't exist. So like every time I start having a conversation about capitalism versus socialism, just economically, or like the practice of communism as a form of government versus a republic. I was like, well, before we have these, have you ever lived or spent time in a place that practices the form of government that you're supporting? If you haven't, why don't you come with me for a few weeks? Because I have. And the whole entire time that we were there, the only reason I was able to survive was because the military was flying in my food and water because there wasn't any there. Because if you went and got the water out of the well, you'd have dysentery because it has been poisoned by all of the gross people that are around there because there's no food or water to be had and everybody's fighting over the same freaking well. It is clearly, I and every single one of my brothers and sisters that has worn that flag on their shoulder, have confidence that we are the ones that love freedom and that have died and have seen our friends die protecting it and would happily die to protect it.